Let's get right into it. The free meals program for millions of impoverished children, proudly announced as Indonesia's national pride, has allegedly been plundered from within by 3 senior officials stealing billions of rupiahs every single day. And it gets worse when you realize that this program's budget reaches 286 trillion rupiah in 2026, which is larger than the GDP of several small nations. Yet what was actually purchased instead included 21,801 electric motorcycles worth 1 trillion rupiah, 32,000 pairs of shoes, 31,000 tablets, and 5,755-inch televisions. None of these have absolutely anything to do with nutritious meals. The Attorney General's office has been quietly investigating this case since the 29th of May 2026, even before President Prabowo removed the 3 officials. This means there is something far larger than just 3 greedy individuals at play. What is even more shocking, the partner foundations receiving billions of rupiahs every single day are all directly connected to the suspects' own networks. So is this merely the tip of a much deeper corruption iceberg? And what other programs are being quietly stolen from us without our knowledge? Everything will be covered in this video, so stay with us until the end. There is a program that was supposed to save millions of children from hunger. In Indonesia, the world's 4th largest nation with 277 million people, 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 experiences stunting. Bodies failing to develop optimally due to malnutrition, brains failing to develop as they should, and the damage is irreversible. A child who suffers stunting will grow up with permanently limited capacity for their entire life. 21.5%. That is Indonesia's stunting rate, one of the highest in Southeast Asia. So when President Prabowo Subianto announced the free nutritious meals program, known as MBG, as the top priority policy of his administration, the world took notice. The World Bank describes government food programs as one of the most important indicators of a nation's governance. The IMF monitors them as a signal of government commitment to public welfare. The budget is anything but small, 85.7 trillion rupiahs in 2025, then surging to 286 trillion rupiahs in 2026. This is no minor initiative. This is one of the largest social programs in Indonesian history. The targets are equally ambitious. Ensure school children and pregnant mothers across every corner of Indonesia receive adequate daily nutrition, from Sabang to Merauke. Similar programs have been run in India through the midday meal scheme, in Brazil through Bolsa Familia, and across various African nations, and every single one of those countries has learned the same lesson. Large-scale government food programs are the most fertile ground for corruption. Because the budgets are enormous, distribution is spread across thousands of points across the entire country, and comprehensive oversight is almost impossible to achieve. A fact that made me stop in my tracks. BGN is a brand new institution, only established recently. Dadan Hindaina was the first BGN chief, inaugurated in August 2024. Meaning this institution has not yet been running for 2 full years. It has no strong organizational culture, no mature audit systems, no battle-tested checks and balances mechanisms. And this is where 286 trillion rupiahs was placed, in the hands of a new institution whose systems were not yet ready. Was this a design flaw in the program, or is this precisely how it works? Enormous budgets poured into new institutions with no strong oversight, deliberately leaving gaps that can be exploited. The question you need to think about: if this program was announced to the entire world as a national priority policy, how could its oversight system be this porous? Was the weakness truly the result of negligence, or did someone deliberately leave that gap open?
3rd of June 2026. The Attorney General's office summoned 3 senior officials from the National Nutrition Agency. They emerged from the Rp75 building wearing pink detention vests, hands in cuffs, heads bowed. They were immediately escorted to detention vehicles, headed for Salemba prison. 3 people who just yesterday held control over budgets worth hundreds of trillions of rupiah are now officially suspects. And the corruption method? Simple, yet highly systematic. The first and most outrageous is the procurement of 21,801 electric motorcycles worth 1 trillion rupiah. 1 trillion rupiah for a nutritious meals program, but not to buy food or build kitchens. Instead, it was used to purchase electric motorcycles with absolutely no relevance to the program's purpose. That is not all. There were 32,000 pairs of shoes, 31,000 tablet computers, and 5,400 units of 75-inch televisions. Picture this: a program designed to ensure school children receive nutritious meals every day, yet its budget is used to purchase 5,475-inch televisions. That is almost 2 large televisions for every single working day of the year. Menurut Transparency International, procurement markup fraud is the #1 corruption method in developing nations. This is not a problem unique to Indonesia. Identical cases have occurred in India, Brazil, Nigeria, and Bangladesh. Whenever a major social program arrives with a massive budget, there are always hands waiting in the shadows. However, the most suspicious element is the procurement of 31,000 tablets and 5,400 televisions for a nutritious meals program. What is the logic behind it? This is not negligence. This is a very carefully planned budget diversion. A nutritious meals program, and what they bought were televisions and tablets? Who approved these procurement specifications from the very beginning, and why did nobody question it sooner? There is also one small detail that almost nobody noticed. Beyond procuring irrelevant goods, the suspects also manipulated the program's partnership system. They appointed foundations that did not meet the requirements but were directly affiliated with their own networks. These foundations then received billions of rupiah in daily incentives from managing the kitchens, every single day, not every month, but every day. Money kept flowing, while as for the children who were supposed to receive nutritious meals, nobody can really say whether they actually got them or not.
Now, let's identify the 3 individuals behind all of this. The first is Professor Dadan Hindayana, an academic, a professor, someone who should have embodied intellectual integrity. He was appointed as the first chief of the agency by President Jokowi in August 2024. His declared assets stood at 9 billion rupiah, consisting of 2 plots of land in Bogor, 3 luxury vehicles, and 1.4 billion rupiah in cash. The second is Sony Sanjaya, former deputy chief of operations. His assets are even staggering, reaching 12.9 billion rupiah, with 11 plots of land spread from Bandung to Purwakarta. The third is Lodewijk Pusung, former deputy chief of organizational development. All 3 were removed by President Prabowo on the evening of the 2nd of June 2026. The very next day, they were immediately detained by the Attorney General's office. However, here is the most startling detail that almost nobody has highlighted. The Attorney General's office had actually begun investigating this case since the 29th of May 2026, several days before Prabowo removed them. This means the investigation was already running before the political decision was made. It means information had reached the authorities long before the public knew anything. This leaves a very large question hanging in the air. Modifying the digital verification system of the agency's portal requires an extremely high level of access. This is not something 3 people could do alone. It requires IT personnel, server access, and coordination. 3 people have been arrested, but is it possible that a corruption network this large, targeting a 286 trillion rupiah budget, was run by just 3 people? Or is this merely the surface of a far larger iceberg? The partner foundations receiving billions of rupiah in daily incentives were all affiliated with the suspects. But who helped them register those foundations into the system? Who looked the other way when the verification process was running? The pattern of academics turning into corrupt officials is not new. In Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Nigeria, government food program officials are often the first to be arrested when a new administration takes over. Yet behind them, there is almost always a deeper network. Now, let's talk about the broader context, because this is not just a story about Indonesia. This is the nightmare experienced by almost every developing nation in the world. India has the midday meal scheme, a lunch program for 120 million school children every single day. Hundreds of corruption cases are detected there every year, ranging from inflated food prices and fictitious distribution records to ghost vendors who never delivered any food but kept receiving payments. Brazil has Bolsa Familia, one of the world's largest social protection programs. Billions of dollars were embezzled before the government implemented sweeping reforms. Nigeria lost $6 billion from its national food subsidy program, vanishing without anyone being able to trace where it went. Now Indonesia joins that long list. The impact on investment and Indonesia's international image is very real. Foreign investors examine governance indices before deciding to enter a country. A corruption scandal in a president's flagship program, especially one that has newly launched, is a major red flag in the eyes of international investors. Indonesia has been aggressively campaigning to position itself as the best investment destination in Southeast Asia, and this scandal has arrived at the worst possible moment. Moody's and S&P ratings for Indonesia could be affected if governance is perceived to be deteriorating. That directly impacts the value of the rupiah, the nation's borrowing costs, and ultimately the burden carried by ordinary people. Economists call this pattern the corruption debt trap. Corruption in a social program leads to its failure, which forces the country to borrow more, causing debt to rise and people to grow poorer, which in turn creates a need for even more social programs. It is a vicious cycle that keeps spinning, and the ultimate victims are always the very people the program was designed to protect. If this pattern is playing out in Indonesia, India, Brazil, and Nigeria, is social program corruption in developing nations an individual problem, or is it a systemic one that is deliberately allowed to persist? This is what genuinely leaves me shaking my head. Indonesia's 2024 Corruption Perception Index score sits at 34 out of 100, which is still in the global red zone. This means that internationally, Indonesia is still perceived as a high corruption risk nation. The scandal arrives precisely as Indonesia is working hard to change that perception in the eyes of the world.
So, what happens next? The government has already appointed a new acting chief. The program has been declared ongoing and unaffected. All 3 suspects have been detained for an initial 20 days of investigation. As a signal to the world, Prabowo's swift response in removing and detaining the suspects is the right move. It demonstrates zero tolerance for corruption in national priority programs and serves as a positive signal for the rule of law. However, there are 3 things we must watch extremely closely. First, will larger actors be dragged into this? As we have discussed, modifying the digital system and manipulating thousands of partner foundation data records is not the work of 3 people alone. Second, Can the assets recovered from corruption be returned to the state? Where are those 21,801 electric motorcycles, 31,000 tablets, and 5,400 televisions now? Where have they been distributed? Third, and most critically, will the oversight system be genuinely reformed, or will it simply be a change of personnel, with the old system running exactly as before? The most unsettling question to take home with you is this: if the nutritional data of millions of Indonesian children exists in a portal system that has proven it can be manipulated from within, who actually has access to that data and for what purpose? A program designed to save millions of children from hunger has instead become the most fertile ground for corruption. If this can happen in a program this visible and this important, what other programs are being quietly corrupted without our knowledge? The lesson that other developing nations in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America can take from this is that large-scale social programs must have independent audit systems from day one. Digital transparency is no guarantee against corruption because, as we have seen in this case, the digital system itself can be manipulated from within by those who have access. What is needed is not just a sophisticated system, but truly independent external oversight, genuinely free from insider interests. Write your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want to see how corruption and geopolitics are interconnected within a far larger scheme, watch my previous videos. Links are in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.